Welcome back to Another Explainer. Today we're diving straight into a totally foundational concept in civics, federalism. But look, we're not just going to sit here and read through Chapter 2 like it's a standard textbook. No way. We are using the chapter end exercises as our ultimate training ground. Think of it like climbing a difficulty ladder. We'll start with the simplest one-mark concepts and work our way right up to those heavy-hitting, complex five-mark questions. By the time we reach the top, you won't just have memorized the answers, you'll deeply understand exactly how power is shared in democracies across the globe. Ready? Let's jump in. Here's our quick roadmap for today. First, quickfire, core concepts. Then, categorizing the three lists. Third, mapping the federal world. Fourth, debating language policy. And finally, mastering long answer questions. All right, Level 1, Quickfire Core Concepts. I want you to think about Exercise 8 from the chapter. It's a multiple choice question. What is the single most distinguishing feature of a federal government? Is it that the national government voluntarily lends some power to provinces? Or maybe it's that elected officials just have supreme power? Take a mental guess right now. Okay, if you picked the option stating that governmental power is divided between different levels of government, you absolutely nailed it. That division is literally the whole shebang. It's what truly separates federalism from a unitary system. You see, in a unitary system, the central government holds all the cards. Any power regional governments have, it can just be taken away. But in a federal system, this division is guaranteed. Both the central and the state governments enjoy their power completely independently. Let's see how this builds with Exercise 6, the fill-in-the-blanks challenge. There are two main routes a country can take to federalism. Take the United States, for example. It's a coming-together federation. Independent states literally came together to form a bigger unit, so those constituent states have equal powers and are super strong compared to the federal government. But India is a holding-together federation. A massive, incredibly diverse country decided to divide its power between the national and state levels to accommodate everyone. Because of that setup, the central government inherently holds a bit more power. Moving on up to Level 2, categorizing the three lists. This brings us to Exercise 9. The Indian Constitution groups administrative subjects into different lists, which is kind of like a giant sorting puzzle. Look at these everyday subjects: defense, police, education, forests, marriage, and agriculture. In your head, try to sort them into the union list, the state list, or the concurrent list. Where do they belong? What's really fascinating here is the logic behind the sorting. The union list handles things that absolutely require a uniform policy across the entire country. We're talking defense, banking, communications. I mean, you can't exactly have different military strategies for different states, right? Then the state list takes care of your day-to-day, localized administration, things like police, agriculture, trade. And finally, the concurrent list. That's for shared interests. Both levels of government can make laws on education, forests, and marriages. But, and this is a big but, if there's a conflict between the two on a concurrent list subject, this central law is the one that ultimately prevails. Level 3, mapping the federal world. So, Exercise 2 challenges you to locate 3 federal countries other than India on a blank political world map. Think about massive, diverse nations for a second. Where else in the world would a central authority really need to share power with regional governments just to keep the whole country functioning smoothly? If you look globally, you'll find federal political systems scattered across different continents. Now, here's a wild stat for you. While only about 25 of the world's 192 countries are federal, their citizens actually make up 40% of the entire global population. For your exercise, you could easily point to the massive expanse of the United States or Canada up in North America. Look down to the southern hemisphere, and there's Australia. Over in Africa, South Africa is another prime example. Basically, these huge, diverse territories rely on federalism to balance national unity with regional autonomy. Stepping up to Level 4, debating language policy. Exercise 7 gives us 3 completely different reactions to India's language policy. First up, we have Arman. Arman argues that creating states based on language has actually divided the country by making everyone overly conscious of their linguistic differences. It's a pretty pessimistic view, basically suggesting that recognizing diversity creates fractures. So, do you think he's right? Then we have Harish. He brings a totally different perspective. He argues that the policy has totally backfired and only served to consolidate the dominance of English over all other regional languages. In his eyes, the policy basically crowned English as the ultimate power language. And finally, there's Sanjita. Sanjita believes that the policy of accommodation, meaning the government actively respects and makes space for different languages rather than forcing one single national language down everyone's throats, has actually strengthened national unity. So, out of these three, who holds the correct view regarding the actual success of Indian federalism?
Well, Sangeeta hit the nail on the head. She is entirely correct. And this brilliantly illustrates the whole paradox of federalism. By giving space to diversity, you actually build a much stronger union. Think about it. If India hadn't followed this policy of accommodation, like if it had tried to force Hindi on non-Hindi speaking states, feelings of alienation would have just skyrocketed. Historically speaking, several states might have even proposed separating from the country entirely, much like the intense tensions we've seen in Sri Lanka. Instead, accommodating all those diverse languages became a massive, crucial pillar of India's unified survival.
All right, we've made it. Level 5, Mastering Long Answer Questions. Welcome to the final boss level. Here is the ultimate exam question, pulled directly from your chapter resources. Explain the major key features of federalism. Now for 5 marks, you can't just throw down a vague definition and hope for the best. You need a structured, multi-point breakdown that proves you truly understand the mechanics of the system. Let's build that perfect answer together. Okay, here are the 5 essential points you absolutely need. First, there must be 2 or more levels or tiers of government. Second, while both of those tiers govern the exact same citizens, they each have their own separate, clearly defined jurisdiction when it comes to legislation, taxation, and administration. Third, this whole setup isn't just based on a friendly handshake. The existence and authority of each tier is literally guaranteed by the Constitution. Fourth, you've got to have an independent judiciary, like a Supreme Court, acting as the umpire to interpret that Constitution and settle any disputes between the levels. And fifth, because true power requires money, each level must have specified revenue sources to ensure its financial autonomy. Memorize those 5 pillars, and you've basically mastered the core of the entire chapter.
As we wrap up this explanation, I want to leave you with a thought inspired by Exercise 5. It touches on the 1992 constitutional amendment that empowered local governments, the panchayats and municipalities. We've talked a ton about national and state powers today, but true decentralization happens right where you live. Think about your own village, your town, your city. How has local self-government, with its own local elections and shared revenues, actually changed the physical streets you walk on every day? Federalism isn't just some abstract political theory. It's the very structure of your daily life. So keep observing the power structures around you, keep asking those big questions, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.